show 'em what you got. Out on Whittier Boulevard, the action never stops. Down at the action, meet you down at the action.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of A Perfectly Good Podcast, the only podcast on the internet that discusses every John Hiatt song from A to Z. I am one of your hosts, Jesse Jackson, and joining me, as always, in the back of a pickup truck is my good friend, Sylvan.
Hello, everybody. So excited to continue this journey all the way, A to Z.
Yes, indeed. We have right away, I think, a little controversy. We are talking a John Hiatt song that John Hiatt doesn't sing lead on.
That is correct.
Yeah, so tell us what song we're talking about today.
Today we are going to be talking about The Action from Little Village, which was released in 1992. It is track 2, and it was produced by the members of Little Village, who, for those who aren't familiar, was a very short-lived, sadly, supergroup of John Hiatt, who most often sang lead vocals, Ry Cooder, Lowe and Jim Keltner. And this song in particular, Ry Cooder sings the main vocals. And let's dive into it.
Yeah.
What are your impressions of it, Jesse?
So I like this one a lot. I think it's a little bit different. I listened to it multiple times from the studio version, and on YouTube there was a slot available of them doing this on Farm Aid back when it was here at Texas Stadium. So we got to watch them do it live. And I think this is a fun little song. I was really, this was a kind of nice to do. So I have not spent a lot of time with Little Village. So this was kind of a nice refresher. Why don't you tell the audience, just in case they aren't aware, kind of the background a little bit on this super group.
So they first got together on John's Bring the Family, which, as most people who are listening to this podcast will know, was kind of John's breakthrough, that he got a much larger commercial following than he ever had before. It was critically lauded. It's still, I think, if you talk to people about John Hiatt, they're going to be familiar with songs on that. Have a Little Faith in Me, Thing Called Love are both bullets from Bring the Family. And John recorded that album when he was once again dropped from a record label, and a producer who had a heart of gold said, okay, tell me your ultimate band. Who would you like to put together? And John said, I'd love Ry Cooder as my guitarist, because John had played on Ry's albums before. They had toured together. If you've heard Lipstick Sunset, you know what an incredible slide guitarist Ry Cooder is. He mentioned Jim Keltner, who was a studio drummer and has played on a million things. And then John kind of told it on a whim. He said, oh yeah, Lowe would be great on bass, not thinking that they'd actually get those 4 people in the same room. And it took some wrangling for Bring the Family, and it took more wrangling for Little Village, but they got together, and it was a certain special kind of magic that first time that they recorded Bring the Family in 4 days. So Little Village was an album that they said, okay, well, what if we gave ourselves more time than 4 days? And what if we said, this isn't a John Hiatt album, this is something completely different? And ... The reviews were certainly mixed at the time. And I guess we can say that since there was only one album, that does tell us a little bit about how successful it was. They weren't able to keep it going. It didn't even quite match the kind of commercial success of Traveling Wilburys or things like that, that people kind of think of Little Village as its own thing, as opposed to, oh, that project that they had for a while. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and after some space, Do you feel differently about it? How do you think the album has aged?
You know, when it came out, of course, when it came out, I was really just getting into my rabid fanaticism for John Hiatt. And I could take absolutely zero criticism for John or anything he did. So I absolutely thought this was a fantastic album. As I look at it now, it's a good album, but that's exactly it. And you said it's a nice little song, it's a good song. Yeah, absolutely. And if we were judging that on any other musician, then it would be great. This is a good song. But a good song amongst John Hiatt's catalog is kind of like a
Yeah, I think that's true. So let's get into it. We do have Ry Cooder doing lead, and just our theory is anything that John Hiatt was officially released, and as he was since did lead on most of these songs, we're going to include that on this list. Um, you know, I think it starts array right away with a little blues, a little bit of funkiness. There's a jump a little place I go called the action. They're talking about, from my perspective, we're going to a place we're going to have fun. This is a place where this is a bar, this is a dance club, this is a place where we're going to go and enjoy music and do all the fun things that people do when they're listening to music. And I like it right from the beginning. I think it's not my normal standard of what I like in John Hiatt. I like a little bit more of, sometimes the tenderness or sometimes the more story songs. But this is just a fun little, let's talk about, going and enjoying music. How about you?
yes. And I think you made a lot of excellent points there. It is a song that is set in a place, and it is a song that mentions dancing, which not a lot of John Hiatt songs do. There's talk of the alligator. I forget all the names of the dances. Mike Elliott pointed out that it kind of takes a little bit from Land of a Thousand Dances. And I was thinking as I was listening to it, probably just thinking about the confluence of this podcast and Set Lusting Bruce, that
Yeah.
it reminds me quite a bit of Meet Me at Mary's Place. There's that kind of the neighborhood bar, the place that everyone knows your name, the warm and fuzzy, but it it's a little bit manufactured in both cases, I would think.
So I love the fact, because I stopped myself from saying it reminds me of Mary's Place, because like, okay, Jesse, let's try. So now I love you so much for bringing that up.
It wasn't just you.
Yeah, but it is right. And I'm also thinking of that when um sweet soul music, and when they start name checking the bands, and yeah, it says they're doing the pony, watch them do the jerk, then they get down on the floor and they go to work, sisters doing the alligator up on the tabletop, lots of farsa racket, don't never stop. It is in a lot of ways, a very meta song, right? We are talking
Yes.
about the actual, music and doing this. We're going to have us a party. Like, go back to Sam Cooke. We're going to have a party, and so the question is, do you think it works?
Yes, but I don't think it works to the uh level that those other songs do.
Yeah.
Part of it is the time that it was released. This is a 90s song, and they're kind of throwing back to that 1960s feel and mentioning dances that most people were not doing in
Yeah.
1992. Um, but um, it's a listenable song. It's a fun song. It's a great song for house cleaning. I'll definitely give it that. But it's not a song that, like, when you turn on the radio and you're transported the way that Rod Stewart transports you into that particular time of listening to Motown records floating down from the tenements and so forth. And I don't know why exactly. Except, maybe it's I have just read way too many critiques and both rock critics and members of the band who said, we were just trying so hard and we were trying to compromise so much that it does a little bit sound like a compromise or like a design by committee kind of song.
Yeah, and because I'm as we're talking about this, right, you're thinking of like Kool and the Gang, celebrate, there's a
Yeah,
party
yeah.
going on down here. And it says that, right? There, it's just a mile or so down the street. There's a park going on in there, down a lot of funky stairs, and everything will be rare till the break of dawn. Right.
Right.
And so
And it's a pretty slow groove to make that claim that we're going to be going to
yes.
the break of dawn. But
Well, and also you often writers will talk about when you're writing a movie or a TV script, show, don't tell.
mm-hmm.
So I think a fair criticism, like you should feel, don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
The music should make you. For example, when Mary's Place is one of my favorite songs, and I picture, you know, their my grandparents had a dairy farm, and in the fall we would be on the front porch shelling peas or doing this, and the adults would all be laughing and telling stories and sharing, making each other laugh, and us kids would just be sitting there trying to keep up with our uncles and aunts that just can shell peas away.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a feeling, it's a I picture that in my mind. And like he says, familiar faces around me, laughter fills the air, you know furniture's out on the front porch, music's up loud. And so he paints that picture. I don't know if the band paints that picture on this one.
I agree.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
is there anything else to say?
Yeah, I know this will be a short one. Yeah, no, I think, and I do think I wish the guys would get back together, because
Mm-hmm.
I do think, and because I was reading, they're like, we just had too much time, or just it somehow, they couldn't grasp lightning in a bottle again. So I do think it's worth looking up to do a Google search and find it. It's live on Farm Aid. The guys seem to be having a blast performing the song. They seem to be enjoying themselves and performing together. But yeah,
Yeah. So it was interesting in preparation for the podcast. I read the notes in Mike Elliott's book, which I'm sure we're going to be referring to over and
yes,
over again. And he, I don't have the quote verbatim, but he kind of was saying that the live versions were even more of a letdown, which was the opposite of everything that I have heard for myself and also what I've read in reviews.
yeah,
I was constantly tormented by my mom telling me about how great the show was in Boston when she saw Little Village. And I'm pretty sure that was actually their last show.
mm,
So even more twisting of the knife. And I printed a review from the Boston Globe in, I think it was my third issue of the fanzine. And it was just rave, exactly what we were talking about, that this song tries to capture, that feeling of like, this is special. There is a magic in the place and the music that everyone is going to be swept up by. That was how the review described the concert. So I don't know if maybe we're just missing something if we only talk about the studio version. So I'm really glad that you found that and can direct people to
yeah.
listen to both and see, you know, did the band just need a little bit of time to get comfortable with themselves and play with the songs rather than take themselves a little too seriously in the studio?
I totally agree. I think so. Not a lot to say about this one. We'll, depending on the song, this will go sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. Any other thoughts you want to share?
I just hope that when we ruffle feathers with our listeners, that they decide to engage in debate with us. And, if you think The Action is a 5-star song, tell us, make your case. and I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think you can make a case every song is someone's favorite song. And so, yeah, so I agree with you. I'd love to hear some feedback and thoughts on it, on what worked, what didn't. So rating.
Keeping in mind that this scale for me starts with a really, like, I would listen to it any day of the week because all of John Hiatt songs are listenable. All of John Hiatt songs are good. I'm not going to, like, a 1-star song for this podcast is not, gosh, think of some bubblegum horrible pop thing that you just wouldn't listen to. A 1-star song is, you know, for what you hear on the radio, a 4-star song. So we're going to,
and I think that's a good point that, you know, if we're going to do, like, we're doing a scale 1 to 5. So if everything is a 3, because you don't want to insult it, then we really only have a 3-point scale, a 3, 4, or 5. So the idea is that on the context of, you know, 1 might be a song that you might skip, you know, going to 2 to 3, 5. So yeah, I think that's a very fair kind of setup, so that what we may call a 1 or a 2, and some other person doing it might, if we were just grading on a regular scale, might be a 4, a 3, or a 4. So all right, with that caveat,
and you said it quite well also, Jesse, I would give the action a 2, because I don't skip it very often, but I also don't seek it out to listen to it very often. And it doesn't leave me with that, like, oh man, that's so good feeling when I hear that last note.
Yeah, to get ready for this, I had, and by the way, I will send it. I'm creating a Spotify playlist that I'm adding the songs that we're reviewing, so that, we'll do that. So I had this on repeat today, and there are songs that I cannot put on repeat, right? That I would go, no, we can't. Like, okay, I'm, hey, can I call in sick this episode, right? Like, no, Jesse, we have to talk about it. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this is a 2. I think the guys absolutely look like they're having fun with it. I think they were trying to go for something. It doesn't quite work for me. It doesn't emotionally attach me, and music to me is often emotion. It whether it brings me joy, or whether brings me comfort, or you just listen to a song because you want to feel sad. So this does not connect with me emotionally either, so I would go a 2 as well.
Yeah, and that was all very well said. This is a song that suggests, hey, do you want to go to the bar? And maybe it's just me, but my answer is almost always no to that question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not. So very nice. All right. So if someone wants to give us feedback, how can they?
They can get us on Twitter or Facebook, Perfectly Good Podcasts. And of course, Sylvan and Jesse have their individual too, but come join the discussion on our Facebook page and tweet us.
Yes.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would love for you to go to our Facebook page and like us and follow. I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, at Perfectly Good PD on Twitter for the podcast. Your Twitter?
Sylvan Green Eyes.
All right. Short but sweet, but we will be back next week with another discussion of a different, hopefully better Hiatt song. If they're all like this, it's going to be a really short season, but I don't think they will be.
No, they definitely won't be.
All right. Thank you,
Bye,
listeners.
Everyone.
Thank you, Sylvan, and have a little faith.
Have a little faith.
Bye.
Bye.
Baby, we can come on home.